Hello all. Did you know Microsoft just broke its own AL rules? The same rule every Business Central developer had to follow. If you haven't seen the latest error message with the upgrade to version 27, then stay with me and we'll talk about it. So in this video, we'll see what rules were broken, what were the rules if you don't know about them, and is it the first time that Microsoft have done that? And at the end, we'll summarize with what I feel after discussing with some people. How should we go forward with it as a business central community? So let's talk about it. A few days ago, I was scanning uh, LinkedIn and found out that there were some errors with Business Central 27 upgrade. And as you can see on the error message, it says your update failed with the following error. In summary, the Microsoft extension e-document core failed to synchronize with some database schema issue. But why that issue will come? Now, for most of us, when this happens, and if it's in PTE, we normally check the app, we compare it with the previous release on our source controls, and make sure that we haven't broken something. If it's a third-party app or an ISV app, we reach out to ISV to make sure that their app is intact and supporting what Microsoft suggests to do. But here's the twist. This time, it's not an ISV, it's not in PTE, it's actually a Microsoft extension which is breaking the rules. So let's talk about what are these rules and why they seems to be broken, which I don't know, but let's figure out what these rules are. So I've summarized some code cops which typically helps developers while they are building their extensions, and I'm only highlighting two of them because that are related to kind of this particular scenario. The first one is AS0086, which says that field length must not increase. You cannot increase the field length while you are building a new version of your app. You can read about the details of what it is, but in summary, that's what it is all about. The second one is around field must not decrease in length. So you have a field of 50, you can change it to 40 in the next version of it. So I know what you're thinking. If that's the situation, then how we handle it? So traditionally, we all relied on Microsoft documentation, and here it is. And I'll try to summarize it with one slide. So let's see what those are. These kind of changes, when you try to increase the length or decrease the length or change the data type, change the field name of a field or a table, are called breaking changes. Now, for the breaking changes, there has been a lot of debate, there has been a lot of discussion, and we all follow what Microsoft says today. What Microsoft says, let's understand it. First, you can't just make them randomly as you were able to do it in Dynamics Navision, because it's Business Central, it's an app world, and there are interconnected apps based on dependencies that you have. So as an app developer, you need to make sure that you plan them and communicate them in advance before making them. But how you do that? You don't know how many apps are dependent on yours. You don't know on which part of the world that developer lives in who's taking dependency on your app. For that, Microsoft built something called as obsolescence section, and it has obsolete state, obsolete version, and obsolete region to inform the developer that this change is going to happen and then do the change in the future stage. Now let's understand the life cycle of obsolescence. The first stage is where you mark this as pending. When you mark something obsolete state as pending, it can be a table, it can be a field, now it can even be a report, right? But I guess my biggest worry is tables and fields. So the first thing that you do is you mark obsolete state as pending, which marks that object or that function or that field to be removed in future. Now this acts as an early warning for the developers who are taking dependency on your app. Now how they know it? When they open their project in Visual Studio Code and they have a dependency on your app, they start getting those warning symbols or warnings in their VS code saying this is marked as obsolete pending and will be removed in XYZ version. That acts as a warning. Then the next stage comes where you change the obsolete state to be removed, which indicates that this particular function is no longer supported by you and you should be switching to the future replacement that you have created for that particular thing. Now, but what is the timeline for it? That's surely a question. Microsoft documentation says that you need to have a minimum, or at least Microsoft will announce a minimum of 12 months before changing an obsolete stage from pending to removed. So if they want to delete a table or not use a table going forward, what they'll do is they'll mark it as obsolete stage pending, and then 12 months from that date, they will mark that as obsolete state removed. Now 12 month is the minimum. You as an app developer can take longer time if needed to kind of announce this as a removal at the later stage. For example, if you're marking something as pending on version 25.0, then you can earliest mark it as obsolete state removed in version 28. And then because we are talking about Microsoft, they can also delete that field or that table or object in version 30.31.0. Now why 31.0? We'll talk about it in a while. So you understand that the error that you're seeing on your upgrade to version 27 is happening because there was a field length increase or decrease, and these are the rules that are causing this, and this is the rule set that has been built by Microsoft to to be followed by each app developer who are building for AppSource. Now let's take a quick example. Let's say in version 25 you decided that you don't want to support the customer code field for whatever reasons, but you know that there is some data associated to it, and then there might be dependency to that field which you can't analyze because a lot of people can take dependency on your app. So what you do is you mark this as obsolete state pending and then provide the tag when you're marking this as obsolete, and then you are also attaching the reason why you're marking this as obsolete. All these three details help the dependent app developer to see that warning that what is the replacement, how should I proceed with it, and when it is going away, right? So let's say the obsolete region that this is replaced by new customer code field. So here I've also introduced a new field called new customer code in version 25.0. Then moving to the future in version 28.0, I changed this obsolete state pending to obsolete state removed. So at this point, the developer, if they haven't changed it, who are taking dependency on your app, they will be forced to change it because that will become an error at that point in version 28.0, which is 12 months from the time when it is marked as pending. Then because we are talking about Microsoft, in version 31.0, they can actually delete that field from the object itself because they don't need it because it's already obsolete state as removed. Now there are two things I'm pretty sure. One is why 31.0 and why I'm emphasizing because we are talking about Microsoft. So in version 26 or 25 more or less, Microsoft announced that version 26 will be the first ever jump version of Business Central. Now there's a video on YouTube, or it's available at the end of this video, where you can go and understand about the jump version. But in summary, a jump version is a version where Microsoft start doing cleanup of fields which are, or tables or objects which are marked obsolete in the prior versions, but only from Microsoft, right? So what they do in these jump versions, they clean up the schema of objects where there were fields and actions or procedures and whatnot which are marked obsolete previously. And then in the similar time, they also announced that there will be a jump version in every 5 releases after. So after 26.0, there will be 31.0 where Microsoft gets an opportunity to clean up these obsolete objects or fields or tables and whatnot. Remember that cleanup rule on version 31.0, which is typically called as jump version, is still now only available, option is only available with Microsoft. So hey Microsoft, if you are listening by any chance, I would love to have that possibility extended to the AppSource developers so they can also clean up their apps as needed. Okay, let's move forward, and I'll make sure that the link of the documentation is available in the pinned comment and the description. But here's the rule whenever you want to read it. Now, if you remember at the beginning, I said that this is not the first time when Microsoft have done it. They have done it before, but they have planned it in a better way. And if you only have customers on cloud, it went unnoticed. But people who have customers on-prem, or if you are a customer on-prem and you remember your previous upgrade, you would know that there was a problem back then. Now, in the cloud version, Microsoft have ability to add logic, and using the migration toolkit, they're able to kind of do all that in background. So when you go into on-prem upgrade resources, which is here, and then you go into the section called some known issues. Now these some known issues are to be for on-prem customers and partners. And if you notice here in this article, you'll see this: rename tables and field in subscription billing extension, causing a sync error on upgrades. So in the version 25.x or 25.0, more or less, Microsoft also tried to rename the fields and the tables in the subscription billing app. It went unnoticed for the cloud customers because they handled the data within the upgrade logic, but on-prem it became a problem and they had to list this down under some known issues. And the workaround for this, that if there are no customization, then use the sync with force. And believe me, I never recommend my fellow developers and people who come to me about upgrades to ever run an upgrade or sync with a force sync until unless it's your own extension and you know what you're doing, right? But in this scenario, there was no other way, and Microsoft had to suggest to run a force sync while doing an upgrade to version 25.x. If you go down here, there were also some fields that has been renamed, and I'm pretty sure for good by Microsoft, but they have done it in the past, right? Same here, the e-document thing that popped up now also had a problem in 26.0, where there was some tables and field removed in the e-document core extension, and then the only way was to run for sync. So it was similar to this, but because the migration was handled, it went unnoticed while dealing on the cloud customer with the cloud customers. Now when you read about this on the community, there had been good discussions on LinkedIn. I had on a post, I had a chat with Peter, Simon, and other people about this error on version 27 upgrades. And the crux of it was that if Microsoft doesn't follow its own rules, it's tough for everyone else who had to kind of follow those rules. Now let's understand, and this is my feeling at this point. No offense to anyone at this moment, but to clarify, I just think that as the product is moving pretty fast, I expect some changes from Microsoft, where Microsoft have to break some rule. But can we have clear documentation and simple upgrade processes even on-prem? I know majority of customers are opting for SaaS, but there is still a good amount of customers who are still opting on-prem. So if you have customers with very clear, these processes very clearly documented and simpler upgrade to adapt, that'll help us in the business central ecosystem. At the same time, partners and customers can help themselves by cleaning up these unused extension. I know there are a lot of customers who are actually using the e-document core or the subscription billing that we saw. But remember, the beauty of Business Central is to make sure that you only install those extensions that your customers are using. As a partner, you should have a list of extensions which are very necessary for business to run, and then surely in the sandbox environment if you're on cloud, or on a test environment if you're on prem, show them what other extension brings to the product. And if that's something that they want, then surely install it. I have very few customers who are using X and Y and Z extension, and I make sure that I don't install them, because it's not just about these upgrade error that we just saw, it also impacts the performance of the system. The more dependency on different between these extension will surely slow down system in some manner. Plus there will be an overhead on the upgrades even if they are not using it. So make sure that only install what your customers are using, even if you're on cloud. If sometime in future they need it, you can always grab those extensions from AppSource. That's not a problem. So do that review with your customers to make sure that they only have these extensions, right? Make sure that they have clean extensions, they are following the best practice, and document everything. So what's the takeaway from this? For sure, the first thing is Microsoft need to follow what they are defined in the AL lifecycle guideline of an extension. For partners and the AppSource ISVs, and I'm not speaking on anybody's behalf, this is just my feeling, we need a little bit more clarity, at least on the upgrade part, and better documentation when these changes has been done. And as a community, we should keep these discussions open, because that's how we all improve. You know something, I know something, we talk about it, and then we come up with a better solution to it from the future. Okay, so to summarize, what do you think? Was Microsoft right to kind of bend these own rules, or they should lead by example by building proper documentation around it? Drop your thoughts into the comments. I would love to hear your take into it. Plus, if I miss some stories which I don't know, do let me know into the comments. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel for Business Central Insight tutorials and real world discussions. I'll see you sooner than later. Till then, keep learning and keep sharing whatever you're learning. Thank you and have a nice day.